Welcome back, everybody, to Bio 2022 here in San Diego. I'm Greg Slovakin, Editor-in-Chief of ScienceBoard.net, and I have the privilege of having with me Susan Ruediger, who is founder and Chief Mission Officer of CMT Research Foundation. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So if we could start, talk to me a little bit about what CMT is and the history of your organization.
Sure. So CMT stands for Charcot-Marie-Tooth. It's a disease named after 3 doctors, 2 from France and 1 from England. And it was found in the late 1800s. Really what it means is any genetically defined peripheral neuropathy. And we've got nerves outside of our spinal cord, and that's the peripheral nervous system. And neuropathy is just a disease of the nervous system. So people with CMT have diseased nerves outside of their spinal cord. And it's both our sensory and our motor nerves. So that means that we can't feel very well. And it also means that the nerves that send the signal from your brain to your muscles to move don't work very well. It's a progressive disease, and so you start out with mild symptoms. Maybe you're toe walking. That's what I did as a child. Maybe you start tripping over your toes, spraining your ankles. Definitely don't have much coordination, you don't have much proprioception, you don't know where your body is in space, you're constantly bumping against a table or knocking into somebody or stepping on somebody's toes. And then as you get older, the disease progresses more from the distal parts of your body more towards the central parts of your body. So it's in most cases slow, some cases fast, but it definitely can cause some significant disability. People with CMT can wear leg braces like I do. Maybe you don't even notice that they have CMT. Some people are in wheelchairs, some people are in walkers, and for some people, it doesn't happen often, but for some people, it can cause their death.
In terms of prevalence, how many patients worldwide have it?
In the world, 3 million people have CMT. In the United States, we think around 125,000 people.
And then currently, are there treatments, are there cures on the horizon, or even clinical trials?
Well, we don't have any treatments, we don't have any cures, and that's why my co-founder and I started the Research Foundation. I have the most common type of CMT, and I come from 6 generations of people who do. He is a spontaneous mutation, no family history, and he is an ultra-rare type of CMT. But yet our bodies are kind of doing the same kind of thing. They're deteriorating in this progressive manner similarly. And because there are no treatments and cures, we founded the Research Foundation to stop that. Are there things on the horizon? There's a clinical trial in phase 3 right now that we hope has great success. It's a combination of 3 small molecules, and we hope that it does really well. There have also been a few clinical trials in phase 3, but they've failed. The best hope for CMT really is going to be in gene therapy because it's a genetic disease. So we're hoping that a gene therapy will be preventative or curative, and then there are some other small molecule targets that we've identified. And a few are preparing for phase 1 trials coming up in the next couple years.
Interesting. And so we're here at Bio 2022. You told me an interesting story off camera about Bio 2019 and really the power of partnering that can happen at a conference like this. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So one of the things that we did when we first formed the organization in 2018 was we amassed a group of scientists to become our scientific advisory board. And they were foundational scientists, basic scientists who understood the biology and the molecular structure behind the CMT. Then we also joined with clinicians who study CMT in the patient and understand the clinical application. And then we identified a few advisors from the pharmaceutical world, drug development industry. And every project that we take a look at, we look at through those 3 lenses. 1, does it have basic scientific rationale? 2, is it relevant to patients? And 3, does it have viability in the commercial sector? Otherwise, we're building bridges to nowhere if no one will pick it up. And so our scientific advisory board, when we first got together, 1, understood the landscape, and then 2, identified some of the key barriers in CMT research. Why do we not have treatments now when we have the same global prevalence as MS that now has like 20 treatments? So we identified some of those key barriers, and one of the key barriers was how do you deliver a treatment to the peripheral nervous system? If you're going to do it systemically, how do you get to your toes and fingers and all the tiny nerves that exist in those parts of your body? With that being one of our research priorities, we came to Bio 2019 and got into the one-on-one partnering system. And in that partnering system, in the search term, we put drug delivery. And so now we're searching for every organization or pharmaceutical company that works in drug delivery, and we ask for meetings. We met with a company called DTx Pharma, and they were telling me about their technology, and I said, well, have you ever looked at the peripheral nervous system? They said, no, why would we? And we said, well, let me tell you about this disease, Charcot-Marie-Tooth. It took a few months for our advisors and their scientific team to get together, and we designed a program that we then at the Research Foundation funded. It was $125,000, and it was really a concept. Will their technology get into the peripheral nervous system? 6 months later, they had enough data that they were able to get an SBIR grant from the NIH. And then 6 months later, they had enough data from our funding and from the NIH funding to attract $100 million to their company. We really feel like our first, dig into the earth for looking for gold, we came up with a nugget this big. We feel really lucky, but we also feel like we understood the priorities, and we feel like we were able to work with Bio, who makes finding these partners in such a targeted way so easy.
Yeah.
So they're now preparing for clinical trials. The data continues to grow and expand, and our partnership does. I mean, we didn't just stop with the funding. We have introduced them to KOLs in the space. We have hosted a patient panel where they can interact with patients, what's important, what's not. We have helped them unravel some of their scientific mysteries. We're helping them design clinical trials that are relevant to patients, but are also achievable in the clinic and have some real expectations. And then we're understanding what they perceive as being the biggest barriers are, and continuing to fund research that helps overcome those barriers that they're finding now.
What an amazing story. I mean, so that was 3 years ago.
It was 3 years ago.
We're now here in 2022. It's the first in-person in 3 years.
Yes.
And you were on a panel yesterday, I believe, and basically it was panelists who were talking about patient advocacy and working for organizations. And I think the big message, and maybe there were other messages that came out of the panel, were essentially these PAOs are looking to partner with pharma companies, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we only have one scientist on staff. We don't have a lab. We aren't doing any work ourselves. We're paying for organizations to do it. Academics are the foundational scientists, and they're building the building blocks that's preparing us for industry involvement. But what we really see is when the biotech and industry community gets involved, they share our sense of urgency as patients. They're not looking for things because they're interesting, and I don't want to diminutize the value of the academics because they build all the basic research that we can build upon. But the biotechs are the ones that are driven to get there faster. And patients, of course, are driven to get there faster. So we have this mutual target and this mutual sense of urgency that we can work really well together and drive it forward. And we don't look at problems and say, that would be interesting to solve. We look at problems and say, is this interesting or is this useful? If it's useful, it's a go. If it's interesting, it's a no-go for us right now. And I would be remiss if I didn't credit our good friend Chris Austin, who used to be the director of NCATS. He was the one, as we were building the foundation, he said to us, ask that question and focus on useful. And
right.
So we're really grateful for his partnership as well.
So, I mean, patient advocacy organizations, I mean, there's a value that they provide to companies that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Oh, I think so. I mean, we know who the key opinion leaders are in the space. We know where the data is housed. We know where the animal models are. We know how to get them, where to get them, how much they cost. And one of the things that we say to all of our new partners when we're just getting started is we don't want or expect you to be the CMT expert. You're the expert in your technology. We're the experts in the disease. So please do not spend 6 months researching the disease. Call us and pick up the phone, and for 60 minutes we may be able to answer questions that might take you a lot longer to find the answers to. We're the experts, let us help you, rather than you wasting time to try and become that expert. And then we know everybody in the space, so we don't want them researching who the expert is. We want them to call and say, hey, I need a panel of 10 patients. Can you do that in the next week? Yes. Let us help you do that. Anything that industry needs, let us remove those barriers from a disease expertise to patient accessibility, funding. That's what we want to be there because we want to drive research forward with you.
Some other patient advocacy organizations have developed patient registries. Is that something that you've done?
We haven't developed a registry, and there are a couple reasons for that. There are a few registries in the space. Muscular Dystrophy Association has a registry just because they have 350 clinical care centers. And the NIH has been funding a consortium that's focused on inherited neuropathies, really CMT, that has about 10,000 patients. And so that data is available and accessible, and we know the KOLs who can get that data to them. So instead of reinventing that wheel, at this point, we've decided not to do that. We've decided to focus on the other barriers in the CMT space because it doesn't feel like that's a barrier right now.
So we're here at Bio 2022. When you take a look at the conference and everything you've heard and experienced, I mean, what's the big takeaway for you?
Partnering is so valuable to us. I was in a meeting yesterday and we had that exact same conversation. Have you ever looked at the peripheral nervous system? No, why would we? Well, let me tell you about the disease. And as that conversation was unfolding, I thought, I wonder if this is the next DTx. So that is one of the most exciting things to me is how eager the industry is to partner with patient organizations. We have 28 meetings in 4 days. About half of them we've called, but the other half people have asked to meet with us. So there's high interest in meeting with patient advocacy organizations, and there's a growing interest in CMT. And this is just such an efficient way to get it done. 3 days, 28 meetings, speed dating as I like to call it, and then we decide, do we really want to go on a real first date? And it's the best meeting of the year for us. We love it.
Well, Susan, it's great meeting you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time. I appreciate you walking us through CMT and the incredible partnerships that have been fostered at Bio.